There is a silence more profound than the absence of sound, a silence that resonates within your very being. Deeper than thought, older than memory, it is the silence that the Buddha discovered beneath the Bodhi tree, a stillness undisturbed by the storms of suffering, unshaken by desire, untouched by the poisons of ignorance. In that radiant stillness, truth was not invented, it was unveiled. We live today in a world of endless noise, external and internal. Notifications, distractions, ambitions, fears. The mind spins like a wheel set aflame, chasing pleasure, fleeing pain. Yet the ancient voice of the Buddha, clear as mountain air, still calls to us, stop, breathe, look deeply. For what is this life if we do not understand its nature? What use is success if it's built upon the suffering of the soul? The Buddha did not offer dogma, but a path. Not commands, but insights. He offered us a way out of suffering, not through belief, but through knowing. And this path begins not outside of us, but within, in the furnace of our own consciousness. When he said, "Be a lamp unto yourself," he entrusted the entire cosmos to the clarity of your awareness. No savior to worship, no idol to please, just you and the depth of your seeing. So what is this suffering that the Buddha spoke of, dukkha? It is not simply pain or sadness. It is the fundamental unsatisfactoriness of life when lived in ignorance. It is the hunger that returns after every meal, the emptiness that lingers after every success, the fear that waits in every pleasure's shadow. We cling, we crave, we resist, and so we suffer. But in the moment we see this clearly, we are no longer bound. The first noble truth is not a sentence of despair. It is the first step to liberation. For to understand suffering is to stand at the doorway of freedom. The second noble truth reveals the origin, craving, tanha, this thirst that drives us, the grasping at pleasure, at identity, at permanence. But here too there is no condemnation, only diagnosis. Like a compassionate physician, the Buddha shows us the disease, not to shame us, but to heal us. And healing is possible. The third noble truth proclaims it with quiet power. The cessation of suffering is real. You can be free, not in some distant heaven, not after death, but here now, in this breath, this step, this moment of awakening. And so we are led to the path, the Noble Eightfold Path, not as a theory, but as a lived experience, a way of walking in the world with wisdom, with compassion, with clarity. The mind, when untamed, is like a wild elephant. It thrashes, it destroys. But through mindfulness, through insight, we learn to ride it. We learn to make it our ally, not by force, but by understanding. Meditation is not escape. It is revolution, a revolution of consciousness. We begin with right view, not as a rigid belief, but as a deep seeing of reality as it is. To see impermanence, to see interdependence, to see the emptiness of ego. This is right view. It is the lens through which all other steps are illuminated. And from view arises intention, right intention. The heart aligns with the vision. We renounce hatred. We cultivate goodwill. We give up cruelty. The mind begins to soften. The heart begins to open. But this is not a path of contemplation alone. It is a path of action. Our speech becomes right speech, truthful, kind, beneficial. Our actions become right action, harmless, ethical, compassionate. Our livelihood becomes right livelihood, rooted in integrity, free from exploitation. And then comes the fire of effort, right effort, not striving intention, but the joyous persistence of awakening. We abandon the unwholesome, we nurture the wholesome, we guard the gates of the mind. Right mindfulness follows, the mirror of pure awareness, watching thoughts without judgment, feeling the breath, sensing the body, knowing the heart. In mindfulness, life becomes vivid, the ordinary becomes sacred, and finally, right concentration, the stillness that deepens into absorption, the unity of mind, the bliss beyond craving. Not an escape, but a homecoming. This path, when walked with sincerity, transforms the very fabric of being. The self we once clung to dissolves like mist in morning sun. What remains is freedom. What remains is peace. But we must look deeper still, into the mechanisms of thought itself. Thought can be a servant or a tyrant. Most live as slaves to thought, believing every story, obeying every fear. But thought is just a tool, a construct, a map, not the territory. When you sit in meditation and you watch the mind without clinging, you begin to see its tricks. It offers pleasure, but with hooks. It whispers fears that never arrive. It tells you that you are separate from others, from life, from divinity. But this is the greatest illusion of all. The Buddha taught into being that nothing exists independently. A tree is not a tree alone. It is sun and rain and soil and time. You are not you alone. You are your ancestors, your culture, your thoughts, your food, your breath. When you look deeply into yourself, you find the whole universe. This is not mystical poetry. It is the most radical truth. And when you live from this place, compassion arises, not as a virtue, but as a natural response. How could you harm another when you see they are you? The mind then becomes clear, not empty in dullness, but empty of illusion. And in that clarity, a different kind of knowledge arises, not book knowledge, but knowing, not belief, but wisdom. And from that wisdom a new way of being emerges, not constructed, not rehearsed, but deeply authentic. It flows like water, yielding yet powerful, soft yet unstoppable. It is not a personality you wear, but a presence you embody. It is born not from ambition, but from truth. This truth demands something radical. Letting go of your need to control, letting go of your fixed identity, letting go of even the path itself. The Buddha said, just as a raft is left behind once you cross the river, so too must the teachings be abandoned once enlightenment is reached. How profound! Even the Dharma, sacred as it is not to be clung to, because freedom cannot be held, it can only be lived. And so, from clarity, we move toward vision, not in the narrow sense of goals or future fantasies, but vision as the ability to see what is and what can be. True vision does not come from projecting hopes. It comes from piercing illusion, from understanding that every being, no matter how lost, holds within them the seed of awakening, that every moment, no matter how painful, contains the possibility of liberation. A person with vision walks differently through the world. They do not stumble in darkness, nor rush in blindness. They move with presence, with grace, with precision. They are not victims of circumstance. They are artists of reality. They sculpt their lives not with force, but with awareness. But vision alone is not enough. One must have purpose. And here, the Buddha's teaching shines brightly. For in a world obsessed with achievement, he points us to something deeper. Intention. Purpose is not a grand destiny. It is the quiet commitment to live each moment in alignment with wisdom and compassion. It is to ask, again and again, what is the most loving action I can take right now? Your purpose is not found in the future. It is found in the way you answer this moment, and to follow that purpose requires discipline, not the harsh discipline of punishment, but the noble discipline of self-mastery. To sit in stillness when your mind screams for distraction, to speak truth when lies are easier, to meet anger with understanding, to choose the difficult, liberating path over the easy, numbing one. Discipline is the bridge between intention and embodiment. Without it, purpose remains an idea. With it, purpose becomes light. Every step on this path requires courage. Not the courage to conquer others, but the courage to face yourself, to look into the mirror of your own mind and see clearly what is there, the fear, the greed, the ignorance, and to meet it, not with shame, but with fierce compassion. The Buddha did not promise comfort. He promised truth, and truth, when first encountered, often burns, but in that fire the false self is consumed. What emerges is not a new identity, but the absence of needful one. What remains is spaciousness, clarity, and an indescribable joy. This joy is not the high of excitement or the thrill of success. It is the serenity of being. It is the deep, abiding peace that comes from knowing you are no longer at war with life, that you have nothing to prove, nothing to defend, that you are simply awake. And from this wakefulness, action arises, not out of reactivity, but from wisdom. Right action is not limited to grand gestures. It is found in the way you listen, the way you walk, the way you breathe. It is living in harmony with what is. When you live this way, your very presence becomes a teaching. You become a mirror in which others can see their own potential, not through words, but through embodiment, not through preaching, but through being. But no action is complete without gratitude, for gratitude is the recognition of the miracle that is this moment. The heart that sees clearly does not take anything for granted, not the breath, not the sunrise, not the kindness of a stranger, not the tears that cleanse the soul. Gratitude does not depend on condition. It is not reserved for when life goes your way. It is the song of the awakened heart. The Buddha did not complain, even in the face of hardship. He bowed, he smiled, he taught. To live in gratitude is to live in beauty. It is to recognize that everything is a teacher, every joy, every sorrow, every challenge. It is to say thank you to existence itself, even when you don't understand it. And when life inevitably changes, when loss comes, when plans crumble, the grateful heart does not break. It expands. It holds both the joy and the pain without clinging to either. This is adaptability, the ability to bend like bamboo in the wind, without breaking, to shift with life's rhythms without losing your center, to trust that even in the unknown, there is wisdom. The Buddha was not rigid. He did not freeze in dogma. He responded to each moment with fresh awareness. He taught differently to different people, according to their needs. This is not inconsistency. It is compassion in action. To be truly adaptable is to be deeply grounded, not in beliefs, but in presence. When you know who you are beyond identity, when you rest in awareness itself, you are no longer afraid of change. You become the eye of the storm, still, aware, unmoved. And when pain strikes, as it always will, you meet it with resilience, not the hard shell of denial, but the soft strength of acceptance. You feel it fully, you let it move through you, and you emerge not weaker, but wiser. The Buddha's own life was marked by loss, by betrayal, by sickness and death, yet he remained free, not because he avoided suffering, but because he saw through it, because he refused to be defined by it. You too have this power. Resilience is not something you acquire, it is something you uncover. It is the natural state of the unburdened heart. And how do we uncover it? By learning, always learning, not from books alone, but from life, from every mistake, from every silence, from every breath. The Buddha called this path a gradual training. There are no shortcuts, no instant awakenings, but with each step the burden becomes lighter, the path becomes clearer, the heart becomes freer. Learning is humility. It is the willingness to be wrong, to not know, to begin again, and again, and again. In this way, the path is not a journey to somewhere else. It is a journey into yourself, not to build, but to dismantle, not to become, but to remember. And when you remember, who you are, what you are. You do not need to seek enlightenment. You realize you are already home. Home, not a place, not a destination, but a deep, unwavering presence within. That sacred silence where nothing is missing and nothing needs to be added. In that space, the heart rests. The mind bows. The soul remembers. This is what the Buddha pointed to when he spoke of nirvana, not a place beyond the clouds, but the extinction of craving, the cooling of the fires of desire, aversion and ignorance. It is not annihilation, but completion, not the end of life, but the end of illusion. And in that space of no illusion, love flowers. A love that is not possessive, a love that does not cling, a love that asks for nothing and gives everything. The Buddha called it metta, loving kindness. It is the fragrance of the awakened heart. When you truly see another, not through your stories, not through your judgments, but with clarity, how can you not love them? To understand someone is to love them, because behind every mask, every defense, every act of confusion, there is suffering, and beneath that suffering, a longing to be free. Compassion is not pity. It is the recognition that we all stumble, that we all bleed, that we all forget. And in that recognition, we extend a hand, not from above, but from beside. To live with compassion is not to fix others, it is to walk with them, to suffer with them, to rejoice with them. It is to say, I see you, I hear you, you are not alone. This is the revolution of Buddhism, that true strength is gentle, that wisdom is kind, that awakening is not an escape from the world, but a deeper engagement with it. And from that engagement arises a profound responsibility. For once you see clearly, you can no longer pretend not to know. Once you hear the cry of the world, you cannot close your ear. But this responsibility is not a burden. It is a joy, a sacred call to serve. To live for others is to be free of self, and in being free of self, you become truly yourself, radiant, present, at peace, and so, your life becomes the practice, not just on the cushion, not just in silence, but in traffic, in conversation, in failure, in laughter, in every moment where you are invited to return, to awareness, to compassion, to truth. This is the integration, the merging of the sacred and the mundane. There is no separation. Washing the dishes can be meditation. Holding a child can be enlightenment. Sweeping the floor can be a prayer. When the mind is still, every act becomes a doorway. Every sound becomes a bell of mindfulness. Every step becomes a pilgrimage. But this requires remembrance, daily, hourly, breath by breath, because the mind forgets, it wanders, it slips back into old patterns, it clings, it judges, it fears, and so we return, gently, without shame, without punishment. We simply notice and we return. This is the essence of practice, not perfection, but return. Each time you return, the grooves in the mind shift. Each time you choose presence over habit, you are rewiring reality, not just for yourself, but for all beings. Because we are not isolated, we are not separate islands of consciousness. We are waves of the same ocean, flames of the same fire. And what you heal in yourself ripples outward. The peace you cultivate becomes peace for others. The wisdom you embody becomes a mirror. The love you give becomes the light that awakens hearts you will never even meet. This is the invisible revolution, the quiet uprising of the heart. It does not make headlines, it does not seek applause, but it is the most powerful force in the universe. The Buddha did not set out to become a god, he set out to understand suffering, and in doing so, he discovered a path that belongs to us all, a path that transcends religion, culture, and time, a path of being fully, deeply awake. You do not need to renounce the world. You do not need to change your name, wear robes, or memorize scriptures. You need only to look within, to see clearly, to live wisely, to love fully. And yes, you will stumble, you will forget, you will be overwhelmed. But each time, the path is still here, the breath is still here, the silence within you is still here. And when you return to it, it welcomes you, without judgment, without shame, because awareness is not a punisher, it is a mirror, and that mirror reflects not who you think you are, but who you truly are. Beneath the story, beneath the fears, beneath the scars, there is something untouched, something radiant, something free. The Buddha called it Tathagatagarbha, the Buddha nature, the seed of enlightenment that exists in every being. You do not need to create it, you only need to uncover it. And how do you uncover it? Through presence, through patience, through practice, through compassion, through stillness. Each breath you take in awareness is a return. Each act of kindness is a revelation. Each moment of silence is a doorway. And as you walk this path, not as a follower, but as a light unto yourself, you begin to see the world differently. Not as something to be conquered, but as something to be loved. Not as a battleground, but as a sanctuary. You begin to see others differently, not as enemies, not as competitors, but as fellow travelers, fellow dreamers, fellow Buddhas, not yet awake. And you begin to see yourself, not as broken, not as lacking, but as whole, as enough, as sacred. This shift is everything. It is the awakening the Buddha spoke of, not a bolt of lightning, but a gradual unfolding, a softening, a returning, a remembering. And in that remembering, there is peace, not the peace of silence alone, but the peace of alignment, the peace of no resistance, the peace of being exactly where you are, as you are. The Buddha smiled, not because life was easy, but because he was free, and freedom, once tasted, is worth any journey, any hardship, any letting go. So if your heart aches, let it ache with awareness. If your mind races, let it race in mindfulness. If your soul hungers, feed it not with distraction, but with presence. There is nothing wrong with you. There is only forgetting, and forgetting is part of the path. What matters is not that you fall, but that you rise, that you return. The Buddha's teaching is not about transcendence, it is about transformation, not escaping the human experience, but illuminating it. So breathe, sit, walk, love, cry, forgive, laugh, and know that in doing so with awareness, you are walking the path, you are living the Dharma, you are in this very moment becoming free. Freedom, not the absence of hardship, but the absence of bondage. It does not mean your life will be without challenge. It means you will no longer be enslaved by your reactions to those challenges. You will meet the chaos, not with panic, but with peace. You will meet the storm, not with fear, but with the stillness of one who has discovered their center. This is the promise of the Buddha's path, not that life becomes easy, but that you become unshakable. And how do we become unshakable? By living as the mountain does, by rooting ourselves in presence so deeply that the winds of pleasure and pain, gain and loss, praise and blame, fame and disrepute may howl, yet cannot move us. The Buddha called these the 8 worldly winds. Most are blown about by them their entire lives, but when you truly see them for what they are, impermanent, empty, without self, you stand still. You watch them pass like clouds across the sky. In that stillness, your choices begin to change. You no longer chase validation. You no longer fear failure. You act, not from compulsion, but from clarity. You speak not to impress, but to uplift. You listen not to reply, but to understand. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, your life becomes a sanctuary, a field of peace that radiates far beyond what you can measure. This is what it means to live the Dharma. not to recite texts, not to retreat from the world, but to show up fully, awake, compassionate, wise, in every moment, with every breath. The teachings are not abstract, they are lived through the simplest things. How you greet a stranger, how you care for your body, how you deal with difficulty, how you forgive, how you grieve, how you begin again, again and again. You begin again, and in that beginning again, something miraculous happens. You stop seeking perfection. You start trusting process. You stop striving to become someone. You start relaxing into who you already are. Who are you, really? You are not your name, not your story, not your success, or your trauma. You are the awareness in which all of that rises and falls. The open sky, not the passing weather. You are the still point, the silence, the witness. You are the one who sees, hears, knows. This knowing, this direct, intimate knowing, is what the Buddha pointed us toward. Not faith in an external God, but confidence in your own awakened nature. This confidence is not arrogance, it is not rooted in ego, it is the humility of truth. And from that truth, humility naturally arises, because when you truly see, you realize there is no separate self to exalt. There is only life, expressing itself through you, and through every other being. This is where ego dissolves. Not through effort, but through insight. You don't need to kill the ego, you need to see through it, to recognize that it is not a solid thing, but a collection of habits, fears, memories and thoughts, stitched together by grasping. Let it go, gently with love. Let go of needing to be right, needing to be special, needing to be in control. And as you do, notice the space that opens. Notice the breath that deepens. Notice the peace that was always here, waiting for your surrender. Surrender is not weakness. It is the highest form of strength. It is saying yes to life, even when you don't understand it. It is trusting the unfolding, even in the darkness. It is bowing, not in defeat, but in reverence. And that reverence, that sacred bow, it changes everything. It infuses your life with meaning, not the meaning of accomplishment, but the meaning of presence, not the meaning of what you do, but how you do it. Wash the dishes as if you are bathing the Buddha. Tie your shoes with full attention. Speak words that heal. Offer silence that listens. Let your whole life become a meditation. And from that meditation, joy begins to rise, a joy that is not dependent on circumstance, a joy that does not come and go. It is not the pleasure of the senses, but the delight of being, the simple, profound joy of now. This joy is your birthright. You don't have to earn it. You don't have to chase it. You only have to stop covering it with your noise, your striving, your doubt. Be still, be here, be this. The Buddha said, there is no path to happiness. Happiness is the path, and how could it be otherwise? If you are not happy now, in this breath, in this moment, what makes you think you'll be happy later? There is no later, there is only now, and now, and now. This moment is your life, not yesterday, not tomorrow, now. So come back to the breath, to the body, to the sound of the birds, the weight of your feet, the beating of your heart. Come back, not as a task, not as a chore, but as an act of love, because you deserve your own presence, you deserve your own kindness, you deserve to come home. And when you live this way, anchored in awareness, guided by compassion, you become a refuge for yourself, for others, for the world. People feel it without knowing why. They are drawn to your presence, because presence heals, presence liberates, presence awakens. You don't need to preach, you don't need to convert, just be. Be fully, honestly, humbly awake, and let your life speak. Let your silence teach, let your love ripple outward, touching lives in ways you will never know. This is how the world changes, not from the top down, but from the inside out, not through force, but true presence, not true revolution, but true awakening. And it begins with you, here, now. You are the miracle you've been waiting for. You are the miracle you've been waiting for, not because of something you must become, but because of what you already are beneath the veils. The teachings of the Buddha are not a treasure to be chased, but a mirror to be gazed into, patiently, honestly, and with love. And what you see there, when the mind is still and the heart is open, is breathtaking in its simplicity. You are enough. You have always been enough. This is the quiet revolution that unfolds within. The death of striving and the birth of sufficiency, the falling away of illusion and the rising of truth. It is not found in shouting, but in listening. Not in adding, but in subtracting. Not in noise, but in the profound music of silence. In this silence, wisdom blew, and from this wisdom comes equanimity, the stillness of the heart amidst all change. Life will not cease its cycles. The seasons will still turn. Bodies will age. Loved ones will come and go. The world will tremble with both beauty and sorrow. But you will meet it all with a heart wide as the sky. The Buddha called this upekkha, the serene balance that neither clings to pleasure nor recoils from pain. It is not indifference. It is deeper care. A care that is no longer entangled. A love that is free. And in this freedom, you walk gently. You move slowly. You speak clearly. You breathe deeply. Every gesture becomes a blessing. Every step a prayer. Because you are no longer rushing to get somewhere. You are already home. And the world, this troubled, aching, magnificent world, needs more of this. Not more opinions, not more fear, not more division, but more beings who have remembered who they are, who walk with tenderness, who radiate peace, who carry the medicine of presence into every room, every conversation, every interaction. This is your calling, not a task to be achieved, but a truth to be lived. To live awake is to live courageously, not without fear, but beyond it. To live with an undefended heart, to let yourself be touched by the world and not close, to let yourself be changed and still remain true. This takes practice, but every breath is a chance. Every morning is a beginning. Every moment is a portal. You do not need to wait. You do not need to understand everything. You only need to begin. Where you are, as you are, with what you have. Begin. Begin with your breath. Begin with your step. Begin with your listening. Begin with your love. And if you fall, bless the ground that catches you. If you forget, smile and return. If you hurt, let that pain break you open, not down. This is the sacred path, the path of the Buddha, the path of being fully human and fully divine. And as you walk it, not perfectly but sincerely, you will feel the presence of all those who walked it before you, the countless beings, known and unknown, who have lit candles in the dark, who have sat beneath trees, who have wept, who have awakened, who have bowed to the mystery and smiled at the storm. You are not alone. You never were. The Buddha walks with you, not as a distant figure, but as the clarity in your seeing, the compassion in your heart, the stillness in your breath. And if you ever forget, look within, sit still, close your eyes, listen to the silence. He is there, and so are you, complete, whole. May you walk this path with grace. May you see clearly. May you love fiercely. May you awaken fully.